Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Pac-12 Chat Show Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. As always, I'm Tony Altmore here with Tim Prangley. Chris will be joining us in just a moment as he sorts out. We're having some adventuresome technical issues tonight, and we are excited for Week 3 in the Pac-12. Now, Tim, can I say something that we have not said since, 2006?
Please do.
The Pac-12 is the number one conference in college football.
Wow.
With ranked teams, with points, in fact, even in Mark Rogers, our founding godfather here of the community, in his conference rankings today, Pac-12 number 1. Is this what we expected? 8 teams are ranked. That's bananas.
That's again, it's like bittersweet, right? Because if you're gonna go out on top, I guess it is great because it just shows you what coaching does. This is coaching. There was a void of talented coaches in the Pac-12 for a number of years. Again, I don't want to disparage them, but there was Carl Jarrell bouncing around different schools. USC trying to figure out the wasteland with Helton. Washington having their issues with Lake. And so it just fell behind and just kind of snowballed. But it's good to see a across the board, really good coaches in the Pac-12, and you're seeing the dividends of that. Yeah.
When it comes down, I think a lot to the decision that the conference made in, 2020 or whatever, of the teams just stank. And so what the task of the post Larry Scott commissioner was get the football to be a better product. And it took a few years and they've succeeded. They, however, just screwed it up enough to burn the conference down in the process. So it is quite an interesting situation. Now, the second piece of info, which is a huge question mark here, is the lawsuit adventures. So for those folks who have been following along, the presidents of Oregon State and Washington State filed a lawsuit in Whitman County Court, which is where Washington State is, against the Pac-12, arguing the Pac-12 should not be able to hold a meeting this Wednesday. Today, it was supposed to have a meeting today. The court agreed with them, gave them a temporary restraining order, preventing the Pac-12 from having meetings or from making any decisions that are not unanimous by the 12 schools. The big driver of the issue was that the Pac-12 wanted to sign employee incentive agreements so that if the conference is collapsing, so that employees will stay through the year, because the Pac-12 is under contract to provide football games and basketball games and baseball games to its schools and its media partners. And today, the 12 presidents unanimously did approve those plans. So the Pac-12 will continue to exist, at least in some form here. And it's going to be an interesting week. What were your thoughts on the lawsuit?
I'll have to be honest. I didn't read much on it, and I'm not prepared for it. But I will tell you, as far as the Pac-12 is concerned, nothing at this point is going to surprise me. I will say that there is one more year of this. That they need stability. They need to have everyone in place and everyone manning the stations to keep this through the entire year, right? Because the Pac-12 still goes through the basketball season, right, Tony? So all the way into summer,
whole year long.
So I mean, they need to make sure that they have people aren't jumping ship, people aren't doing their own thing. People got to stay, especially for the student athletes, right? Because these student athletes, they signed up with the Pac-12, they signed up with these universities, they deserve better. So I'm glad that there is some kind of structure in place now to make sure people are held accountable.
I don't have much other than it seems like divorce is messy and we already have alimony payments. And now it seems like the kids are fighting over, who gets the house or something. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I don't know, like I've seen I don't know if you touched on this already while I was fixing my computer. I saw some people laughing about the idea of Oregon State and Washington State controlling the Pac-12 and then just voting to be in the conference championship game regardless of records. stuff like that. That would be like all time hilarious, even though it would be, especially if we're not in it, then I'd be pissed if we were. But no, yeah, I mean, all of this is a shame to me going back from the start or whatnot. But and I'm sorry that I missed your take a little bit, Tony, but it seems the funny thing is I think the Oregon State Beavers have hired quite a nice little boutique law firm up in their neck of the woods, and they have a nice little venue selection of I don't know if you touched on the judge that's presiding.
We have not. You want to tell everybody about the judge?
No, that's part of the law, though. They got a favorable judge and a favorable court and a favorable location, right? And
well, the judge is the president. He's the president of the Cougar Club of Whitman County, which is like being the president of the Trojan Club of Los Angeles County.
Aren't you forced to recuse yourself?
Of their booster club.
Aren't they supposed to recuse themselves if they have a vested interest in something like that?
Timmy's a man of the law. He will make sure that he,
yeah, sure,
does things in accordance. No, but the thing, and I don't know if he touched on this, and this is the only legal point that I'll actually add, even though I'm not a litigator, so take everything I say with a giant grain of salt. The temporary restraining order that they actually got is the easy part. Courts tend to favor granting a temporary restraining order in terms of keeping the status quo, as to speak, or whatnot, in terms of it's easier to stop things instead of having to unravel things that occur. So generally speaking, in these not this kind of case, but generally speaking, temporary restraining orders to get someone to stop doing something are usually favored, and then it's when you get into the actual meat of the litigation that the results actually come. So it doesn't mean that they've already gotten their way permanently or whatnot. Maybe they end up doing. I don't know the facts well enough to know anything about what actually happens down the road, but I'm not surprised that they granted a TRO.
Well, and having read a lot of the analysis on it, it sounds like the PAC did not make very effective arguments in its own behalf anyway. So it'll be interesting. So we'll see what happens going forward, but hopefully it'll be a more amicable situation. We may end up, as people are saying, for up to 2 years with a Pac-2, because under NCAA rules, if a conference goes below 6 members, they have 2 years to get back to having enough members. And so, I mean, truly, we could have a situation. And by the way, amending the playoff agreement takes unanimous consent. So we could have a situation next year where Oregon State and Washington State, as the champion of the Pac-2 in the game they play, one of them will go to the playoffs. That is a very real possibility at this point.
I mean, that's great. Actually,
I'm on board for that. I'm completely on board.
Awesome. It's kind of awesome.
I think that's what they deserve. After the way they got the shaft, I think for the next 2 years they should be in the playoffs. They should have an automatic berth. Yeah, absolutely.
I want the first year they do it. I want the first year they do it, one of them to actually be really good and contend. And then the second year, I want one of them to make it 5 and 7. And just make a total mockery, have everyone in the entire country super pissed. That would be great. I'm here for it. I'm here for that. Yeah, for sure.
Beeves, hey Beeves, we're all here for you. Go Beeves, go Cougs. Our official policy of the show is we support the Beeves and the Cougs. Anyway, all right, guys. So we dig into games of the week.
Sure.
It is a weird week with the Pac-12. Have any of you guys ever seen a week with fewer consequential games? Kind of wild.
This time of year, there's usually a lot like this, though, Tony. But this one's pretty Pac-12 wise. There's really some bad games on the slate.
The slate nationally isn't good either. To be clear, there aren't very many good games out there.
There are not. And you'll notice from our graphics, we don't even have the mascots of some of these schools. So that's when you know it's bad. when we don't even have the mascot graphics of them. And we have mascots for every school in FBS and a lot of FCS, but some of these are just so obscure. So starting off, Utah, number 12, coming off that wild win at Baylor, and they are taking on Weber State. What do we think about this one? Is there any way that Weber State has a chance to stun Utah?
So
I'd like to
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go, Chris. Go ahead. You probably know more than me.
I don't. So a lot of these games, like people like me, I think some people in chat, like when I mentioned what the spread actually is, there are a lot of these games there is no spread because they're FCS teams, and those don't even come out until like Friday or Saturday, if at all. This is one of those games that doesn't have a spread. I want to I made the joke last week about my wife being a good luck charm for the Utes. If you want to guess what time we turned that game on in the game and when my wife started watching, go for it. It was about the last about 5 minutes left.
Right as Utah pulled it off.
Right as they scored like 2 touchdowns and won what I understand was an ugly game. Yeah, Bryson Barnes struggles. I think they've named Nate Johnson the starter, but I think they have to. So Rising's been cleared in practice apparently. Whittingham said this for like 2 weeks. Larry, feel free to sound off and tell me anything I'm wrong about. But I think that Rising's going to be back week 4. I think he's been a full participant in practice. And I think they're going to really want him by then. But this week, it doesn't matter what they do. And, they will roll Weber State.
Yeah, when Johnson came in, in relief, led him down the field right on like 85-yard drive or 90-yard drive, whatever it was, to get him back in the game. And Whittingham did come out and say that, hey, he's going to be a starter until Rising gets right. I think Rising, and we know that, Rising, I hope he's good because he's going to need, some games in his belt. It's kind of hard to come into a game, especially with USC coming up relatively soon now. He needs to get in there and start getting some reps. So look for him soon. But in this game, Weber State's going to have nothing for the Utes. I think the Utes are going to shut them down pretty good in this game. Hopefully should be over at halftime so they can get some guys to rest because they can't afford losing more players.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. I think it's going to be just a walk in the park. And Utes have got it. As for Connor Johnson, he wants to know, is our show a Pac-12 asset? Does he get total control as a Beeb? Connor, if you want to call in, you are welcome to join us. No Rick tonight, Connor. If you want to call in and be the Beeb in charge, you are welcome. As always. All right, a friend of the show, Notre Dame playing Central Michigan, who also no longer has a mascot. So we just got some random CMU students. Notre Dame looked good in the second half last week. Central Michigan is going to be an interesting game coming up. Any chance my hometown Chips, because they're from like 30 minutes from where I grew up, have a chance?
No. I think that's. I honestly think that I really do like this offense. I mean, Sam Hartman is showing that they're for real. I think that what's he going to do? Estimate probably going to break off another 70, 80-yard run, and they should cruise the win here. So, chalk winner win for the Irish.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I agree. I think the only argument that it's even like semi a game is that you argue that Notre Dame's looking ahead to Ohio State, who they have the week after this. But this week, no, they take care of business, like you said, and roll on and look to go in, play in Ohio State undefeated in a top 10 matchup.
I want to say fire up Chips. That is the appropriate cheer for the hometown Central Michigan Chippewas. But Notre Dame is just going to be too much for them. So I think Irish are going to roll in this one. And one of the ways you always know it's going to be a bad game is the fact that that's the one that they're putting on Peacock. So that will be live on Peacock only. When it's not even on TV and it's Notre Dame, that is a bad sign, is their one game of the year. All right. Now, guys, this is an interesting one that I'm looking forward to. San Diego State heading up to Oregon State. Might it be a future conference game? We don't know. But we've got two ladies who are kind of badass presidents that we here on the show love. President Delatorre from San Diego State, President Murthy from Oregon State, Queen of the Pac-12, along with Queen of the Pac-2, along with Chancellor Chilton, who is a friend of the show. So what's going to happen here? Any chance the Aztecs are going to upset all the celebrations at Reeser?
No. but Oregon. So the one stat I have for you on this one is that Oregon State, Utah, Cal, and Washington State, despite the claims that the Pac-12 doesn't play any defense, those four are all rated in the top 10 on ESPN in defensive efficiency right now. And that's even setting aside the teams like USC and UCLA that I think do have improved defenses, but haven't played anyone big enough for it to matter yet. And how improved is a question. But those are four very good defenses thus far, Oregon State being one of them. UCLA just played San Diego State last week at San Diego State. They do some good things. They like to run the ball. Their quarterback is not great, but he's good. He can do some things and he can run the ball a little bit. But the Oregon State defense is going to have no issue with that San Diego State offense. And I think they're going to win very easily, like the spread suggests, which is about 24.5 right now.
Yeah, the Jaden Maiden, what a name, right? I think that's the quarterback's name. He's putting up big numbers, but he's also throwing interceptions. I think earlier in the season, I was questioning what the Beavers could do in the secondary to replace a really good second. They lost some good pieces, but so far, I mean, it hasn't been the greatest competition. But so far, they've been doing what they need to do. They've been ball hungry, and I think that they will take care of it. I do see some turnovers, so they're going to roll. Beavers are going to roll in this one.
I think you're right. First, I want to thank Slap Happy for the super sticker. Thank you, Slap Happy. That does a lot to help Mark and the whole Voice of College Football community, so we really appreciate it. Tim and Chris, I think you guys are right here. Oregon State is really, really good. San Diego State is a good team. They did some good things against UCLA, but I don't think they have much of a shot here with Oregon State. So also, the new excitement of the renovated Reeser Stadium, I understand it was beautiful. All the reports I read about it and the whole Beaver Street they've got going around the state just sounds like it's going to be a lively and fun place to be, and probably a pretty great game and maybe the best game in the Pac-12, but Beavs are going to roll. So
yeah, and on that, UCLA has a good defense, Chris, but I mean, we know they're not one of the better in the country. And they held them 3 point. They held Aztecs at 3.5 yards per play, in that last game. And I think the Beavers have a better defense. So I mean, I think that San Diego State's going to move the ball, but it's going to be a one-sided affair.
UC Davis might have been better than San Diego State.
All right, next up to bat, we've got a resurgence here, guys, of history. So history's coming back to bite us in this one. For those of you guys who don't know, Idaho was a very long-time member of the Pacific Coast Conference. So Cal versus Idaho used to be a conference game. Now, funny enough, Cal made a last-ditch bid to save the Pacific Coast Conference, and one of the conditions was that the conference had to agree to kick out Idaho and bring in San Jose State, which didn't happen, and they dissolved the conference then. So here we've got in the last year of the Pac-12, we have a remembrance from the last year of the Pacific Coast Conference. Guys, any chance the Vandals stun the Bears?
No. I really like the way the Bears are playing. You actually, Chris, this is a team you know. Why don't you go first? I'll fill in.
No, go ahead, and then I'll go. Well, I think about the Auburn game. Because, I don't think that this game is very interesting, but I do think there's some things from the Auburn game to talk about. So if you have anything to say on this game, go for it. But
if you guys had a place kick, anyway. So unless this thing comes down to a field goal contest, if this comes down to a field goal contest, I'm gonna lean towards Idaho, but I don't think the Vandals will be that close to make this a kicking game. Matter of fact, just last week before that all happened, Chris, there was a comedian that came out. I forgot. Was it Larry David? I can't remember. Someone was on a show. I think it was like Dan Patrick, and said, why do we let these kickers decide football games? They're the most unathletic, unfootball player like guys, and yet they decide who wins and loses these games. They just trot them out to the field to do what they do. And he was fully in favor of getting rid of kickers. I'm sure the entire Cal community would love to get rid of the kicking game altogether. But
right. So there was,
I think that, yeah,
like you said, there's like the 3 field goals he missed, right? Then there was also at the end of the first half, he actually hit a 50-yarder and it got called off for a holding, which was a holding, by the way. Like it was blatantly a holding
on a kick.
But when's the last time you've seen someone hold on a kick? But he did hold. Like the penalty was correct. And then I don't know if you saw at the beginning of the game, they had a fumble return that was like right by the sideline that got blown dead for being out of bounds. So they end up getting a field goal on that drive. That's the one field goal he did make, but he returned it. The guy returned it for a touchdown. So that's 4 points right there. So you take those 4, the 3 off from the field goal that he made that got called off, and the 3 misses. That's like 16 points or something.
Yeah.
Like the Bears played, especially on defense, well enough to win that game and snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But also Jaden Ott's kind of banged up, so I don't know if we'll see much of him this week. He went up on a hurdle and came down real bad. Other than that, the offense stuttered way more than I thought it would given what we had seen against North Texas. So maybe the issues aren't solved as much as I might have thought with the rehiring of Spadaval. But Jackson, the TCU transfer quarterback, threw a couple picks in that game, but the offense looked way better than him. I think he has to be the guy going forward, and I don't expect them to struggle in this game. And the defense looked really, really good. I think this is a team that's better than people expected, but the conference is so loaded, it still might be the 9th best team.
Yeah, Ott is playing really well. Defense is playing well. And the Vandals are off to 2-0 start, which is great. But one cool little note is it's the first time that the Vandals have been to Berkeley since 1934. Just a little stat out there for you. But I think unfortunately they will not make it to 3-0. This is where the dream goes to die, and up on Tightwad Hill in Berkeley, they're going to be done.
Well, and part of the reason it's been so long, even though they were in the conference, Idaho, and I don't remember exactly, they didn't have locker rooms or bathrooms in their football field, and so the California teams refused to go there. Again, remember, we're talking about the teams playing in the Rose Bowl and the Stanford Stadium and Memorial Stadium in Berkeley, and Idaho had bleachers. In fact, they used to have to play the few times when Idaho did get a good game, they had to go play it at a high school stadium in Spokane. So, of course, now they have all sorts of interesting new stuff there, which is the Kibbie Dome, which is a pretty cool place. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I wish Cal would go to the Kibbie Dome, because that would be pretty cool. But in this one, I think Cal gets a nice solid win and hopefully gets things back on track after the Auburn disaster. Now, another Peacock game here, which is going to be an interesting one. Washington heading to Michigan State. Michigan State reeling in turmoil this week, guys, as Mel Tucker probably heads to the era of being fired. But in the meantime, the Dogs head to East Lansing for my hometown Spartans. What do we think? Any chance Sparty gets a big one, or are the Dogs going to roll?
Well, I don't. Well, going into this week, it wasn't going to be much of a game. I think that the chaos that's going on there is probably not going to help things. Obviously, traveling, going into East Lansing is not, the easiest thing in the world to do. But I think Penix is familiar, right, with the surroundings from his time in Indiana, I'm sure, and say that so is Kalen DeBoer. I think they've got a great team, and Michigan State is not going to be the team to slow them down. So I got Washington.
Yeah, the line actually moved from 12 to 16 after the news about their coach, which I'd rather not get into. But yeah, like you said, I think Washington rolls in this game. Obviously, Michigan State's better than like the Tulsa team that Washington played. I don't know if they're better than Boise. So Parker Fleming is someone on Twitter that if you're into stats, you should definitely follow. His handle is Stats of War. But he had a chart out last week or earlier this week about net efficiency, and Washington against Tulsa was the best net efficiency in the country. USC happened to be second, but yeah, again, Washington did what they should do against a bad team and absolutely destroyed them. Like, Noah Kim's been a decent quarterback at Michigan State, and I think the one question I still kind of have, or I want to see more about Washington, is what that secondary does. But I think they're going to get after him a little bit too much for us to be able to tell, because he's not as good under pressure. But yeah, no, I'd like to see Washington and what they can do a little bit against a quarterback that's had some success this year. So that will be the thing to watch out for. But I do think that Washington goes into East Lansing and takes care of business rather easily.
Am I up?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I agree with you guys. I think that Michigan, now it wouldn't stun me if Michigan State found a way to pull it off, because Michigan State does wild things at Spartan Stadium, where my dad played for Duffy, by the way. So go green, go white. My father believed that the Michigan State fight song was a lullaby for children, so I can sing it with the best of them. But I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off here. Washington is simply too good. They got too many weapons. Penix is too good. The defense is too good. The receivers are too good. And as Michigan State was already having a rough season and just reeling from what's going on inside the program, I think Washington's going to come in here and make it worse. Dubs is going to have the sunglasses on and enjoying a fun one. So Dubs up in honor of my favorite dog. All right, next up to bat, Washington State. The Cougs, heroes of last week, are facing Northern Colorado. What is going to happen here? Are the Cougs going to get a stunning challenge, or are they going to keep rolling?
They definitely keep rolling. This is another one that doesn't have a spread, obviously. But talking about that like Wisconsin game, I had a Big Ten friend comment to me how like Wisconsin's known for running the football, right? And the week before this, they had multiple 100-yard rushers. And like what that defense did to that Wisconsin rush offense was super impressive. Washington State played very, very well in that game. Ron Stone is a stud for them on defense, their defensive end. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they had I don't think he's getting All-American honors or anything, but number 5 for them, Lincoln Victor, had a nice little return that ended up getting called back, but then he also had a touchdown catch and a touchdown pass. It was like that's a fun little player to watch if you're checking out Washington State. But this one will be easy, much easier than last week, and Washington State moves on.
Yeah, I think Dicker and the boys keep going, rolling. This is not going to be much of a competition once you get these directional schools. So, yeah, big win for the Cougs. Well done.
Yeah, this one I think is not even going to be close. And one of the ways you know it's going to be a bad game is it's not just on the Pac-12 network, guys. It's only on like the Pac-12 network Washington. So remember how Larry Scott had to have like 7 different feeds? This is only on like one of the feeds. So it's a whole nother level of not covered. But in which case, I agree with you guys. Cougs roll.
Tim, what does the banner behind you say?
It says University of Spoiled Children.
I was looking at the Southern.
Oh, yeah. Oh, directional schools, right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes.
Where's that one crazy guy who would always point that out? Yeah, Connor Johnson. Aren't we a directional school? We're proudly a directional school. Although Californians would tell you Southern California is actually a physical place. So we'll take that as an argument. All right, guys, we got a cool one here. North Carolina Central is coming to the Rose Bowl. So this is actually this is the second one of Martin Jarman's efforts to bring HBCUs to the Rose Bowl. So North Carolina Central coming to the Rose Bowl. They're going to be the second HBCU to ever go to the Rose Bowl. And UCLA is not only bringing out their team, but you guys know the HBCU bands are super awesome and really famous. So the North Carolina Central band will be there as well, with the band and the cheerleaders and the baton twirlers and everything. It's going to be quite a cool experience. If you are watching the Pac-12 network, or I think it may even just be the Pac-12 LA network, but you can probably log in if you have the Pac-12 network through your cable company. It would be worth it to check it out for halftime, because that will be pretty cool. So, guys, halftime, no offense to the marching Bruins, but North Carolina Central is going to win the halftime. Any chance they got a shot to stun the Bruins during the rest of the game?
No.
Go ahead, Tim.
No. We see a theme here. No.
Here's our theme.
Dante Moore is
No.
actually second in the conference in yards per attempt, and at 11, and adjusted passing yards per attempt, meaning throwaways, at 12.5. I think that it's going to be a complete woodshed, and go Bruins. Did you hear the sincerity in that one?
Yeah. No, I fully expect both us and Utah to be undefeated going into week 4. And then hopefully we can surprise some people up there. But just really quick on NC Central, just to give them a little bit of credit, is they do have a few quality players. I understand it's FCS, but they do have 12 guys that are all FCS, including 5 first-team guys. And their quarterback, guy by the name of Davius Richard, and their safety, Khalil Baker, I think both of those guys might actually be NFL guys. So there is some talent, but there's not enough of it. So yeah, UCLA is still going to win, I think, pretty easily. And I will not bother you with and bore you with people switching from wide receiver to corner to try to figure out the last hole on our defense, and we can move on.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I think you guys are right. I think UCLA is going to make short work of them. But I do think it's really cool that they're bringing the HBCU to the Rose Bowl again, which is awesome. And they're also, UCLA is picking up the tab for the band and everything. So you guys, for that, you get to go Bruins and on 8 clap, or whatever the thing is that they do. All right. Yet another likely blowout. You guys, I'm not even going to ask you if Hawaii has a chance. I'm going to ask you instead, how bad does because remember, we watched Stanford and beat Hawaii. So I'm going to ask you, how bad does Oregon beat Hawaii?
Does Oregon cover the 37.5, Tim?
Well, we'll see. I mean, they did struggle with those powerhouse Red Raiders last week. So, I think that they will, but I think there still might be some things going on. With their defense. If they can get Hawaii. Okay, yes, no, they're going to blow them out. But I mean, they had issues last week. They had issues last week. And when they actually play someone with a pulse, I'm going to be interested to see. USC got slammed last year for how bad our defense is. Oregon's defense was pretty damn bad too, and it looks like they have not done anything to fix that situation. But yes, they win. They cover.
I do want to give a shout out to that kid for helping my wallet by returning that interception for a pick 6 instead of going down to run out the clock. Thank you for winning by 8 instead of 1.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Oregon's going to roll. I don't think it'll be, like their 81-point win. They certainly did show some weakness signs, but based on what I saw of Stanford and what I saw of Stanford against Hawaii, this game is at Autzen. I think it's just going to be just a rolling of Oregon. And to David, is it Castaneda? I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. Thank you for joining. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. There are all sorts of great stuff that you get when you join Mark Rogers' Voice of College Football community. And excited to have you joining as a member. So welcome.
It looks like he's a Trojan too. So fight on, David.
Oh, you get to fight on for that. Oh, I see the Trojan jersey. The dog in the Trojan jersey is amazing.
But one thing, going back to Bo Nix here,
I'm getting one for my dog.
Bo Nix is need to get in gear because they're not playing the I think the most difficult secondaries. Texas don't can sell me on the fact that Texas Tech secondary or pass rush is going to be elite, and he's under 10 yards per pass attempt, which puts him at about 6th, in danger of being 8th in the Pac-12. So I'm sure I looked at him to try to crank up some stats against that porous Hawaii secondary, so he can get back in the big Heisman race that they're talking about with Bo Nix.
I mean,
you heard the sincerity in that one too, right? Yeah.
To be fair, they had that like head scratching game against Washington State in the Palouse last year, right? Where they like easily could have lost and came back in that game. And every once in a while you get like these stinkers, especially on the road, where like you don't look or play as well as what people think you are, but you might still be that.
That would never happen to us. Hey, Chris, that would never happen to us at Reser. Okay, that would never happen to USC at Reser.
So yeah, it's a question of whether that's the outlier or if it's indicative of issues in the future. And we don't get to find out this week, but we get to find out pretty soon.
And I was wondering how much of a factor is not having Dillingham. I'm still waiting for that. I'm still waiting to see how much the changeover on that offensive line and not having Dillingham is going to be a part of that function of that problem. Is Tony frozen, or I blow his mind with the Bo Nix comment?
And can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. Yeah.
Sorry, my computer's having all sorts of issues tonight. And I just put Rick's picks in the private chat. Rick has no controversial ones so far. Thank you guys for reminding me. I didn't mean to forget about Rick's picks, but he does not have any controversial ones yet. So taking a look at they're just gonna roll. It's not even going to be close. All right, a game that might be interesting, guys. Troy Taylor's old home team, Sacramento State, one of the best teams in FCS, comes rolling into Stanford Stadium just as their bloodied selves come home from USC. What is going to happen with this game?
You got to watch them last week, so I'm going to let you take this one first, Tim.
Yeah, well, Stanford is a very bad team. They're going to slug it out with ASU for the bottom of the barrel. But I will tell you, they do have some good pieces. USC was able to do a great job with David Bailey and really just run away from him. They were doing this really something I hadn't seen that they kind of let out of the bag for the film, where Caleb was running out. And it reminds me of an old speed option like they used to run, right? Where the quarterback would sprint out along with the tailback, and then if it was there, he'd make the pitch or he'd keep it and carry. It was like Caleb was doing that same thing with the ball, and then he would just kind of just drop it out to the receiver if he wanted to do that. I still think that David Bailey is a difference maker. I don't think that the Hornets are going to have an answer for his athleticism on defense. I think that they do, even though USC did a pretty good job bottling up their defense. Urasek is their tight end, and then I'm trying to remember the name of the 6'5" receiver from Orange County. But both those guys are gonna give them fits. I don't know the health. Like, that's one thing. How close this game is to come into how healthy the quarterback situation is there. I don't know if the starting quarterback's out. I even forgot his name. But if he's back, is it Ashton Daniels? I think if Daniels is back, then I think that they win comfortably. But I don't know anything about Sacramento State, so you guys got to fill me in. But I'm going chalk here. I didn't put a lot of time in this one. I'm going with Stanford. Back the pack for Clint.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I have Stanford. There's a reason that he left Sacramento State to go coach at Stanford, and I understand the talent's not all there right now, but they have already looked better against Hawaii. Like, again, I know the transitive property kind of sucks in college football, but like the fact that they did what they did in Hawaii against a Hawaii team that looked better against Vandy than people would have thought. I think SC is going to make a lot of people look silly, and has made a lot of people look silly. And, Stanford being the 11th or 12th best team in the conference is going to be one of those teams, at least for the foreseeable future. But in this one, they bounce back and win, I think, rather comfortably.
Yeah, I agree. Wait, Tim, did you go? Sorry.
No, we're good.
I went. Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're right on this one again. You guys have nailed this one. The Stanford team, as I think, better than the Sacramento State team. Not a lot better, but I think they are better. And so we'll see how it goes. Well, the only thing that worries me, and I mean, Stanford kids are smart, they're hardworking, they're very well coached, they've got a great staff there. The only thing that worries me is if USC has done the USC game sort of demoralize them so much that it leaves them a little vulnerable. So I don't think that it will. Yeah, they're banged up, and their souls are maybe banged up. Now, with that said, and my dad's a football coach, and he'll tell you sometimes it's easier to get over just a destruction game because there's nothing you can do about it. But it can kind of go one way or the other. So I'll be interested to see what happens. But I'm going with Stanford, as is Rick. All right, a game that, guys, if you'd have told us a couple years ago, Colorado versus a terrible Colorado State would be hosting Big Noon and College Game Day at the same time, I don't think anybody would have believed you. But we've got the Rams coming into Folsom Field. Do they have any chance to stun the primetime Deons?
Is there a TV program that's not there? Because 60 Minutes is also going to be there, and I think First Take is also there. Like, that hire keeps paying dividends, right?
They are.
I think that so I've picked against this Colorado team 2 weeks in a row. I'm not silly enough to pick against them, against this Colorado State team. But yeah, the coaching continues to impress. In that Nebraska game, they look like the better coached, a more disciplined team. I've now watched 2 Nebraska games as an aside, real quick, and I hope that I don't see another one all year. And I want to ask you guys, are we sure about this whole move to the Big Ten thing? Because that team is disgusting. Like, I expected them to have some success rushing the ball, and then I think they did at points. But, like, do they not have a backup quarterback that can take a snap or hand the ball off without fumbling? I'll excuse the interception, but I don't know what was going on in that game. That was super gross. I don't mean to bury the kid or something, but the one thing I'm still interested to see out of Colorado is right now there's something like 100.
It was super gross.
There's something like 129th in yards per rush on defense. And again, yeah, like in that Nebraska game, they gave up 222 yards on 41 yards rushing, and they had 33 rushes for 58 yards rushing themselves. So I understand, Shador is great. They have the skill guys. They can sling it around. They've looked great for 2 weeks. Again, that offensive coordinator from Kent State, the former coach at Kent State, it's doing a wonderful job with that offense. But I got to think eventually it doesn't happen this week, but I'm just waiting for the fact that they can't run the ball or stop the run, at least thus far, to catch up with them. But it's not this week, and I think they win by 17 or 24 points or something. They might even run it up because they have so much media there, and it's going to be a big deal. They might just leave dudes on the field and score as many as they can. Yeah.
Well, this Colorado was in the chat on Monday, the USC show, and Matt and I talked about it. And what people don't realize is USC got crucified last year for our defense. All offense, no defense. Well, this offense isn't even as good as USC's offense last year. Their defense right now, yards per play, opponents' yards per play, is 91st in the country. And they, again, I'm sorry, they haven't really played any powerhouses. You just talked about Sims couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, couldn't even hang on to the football. TCU might be all right, but they gave up way too many yards to that TCU. I guarantee you they're going to have team highs against what they did against Colorado. The issue with Colorado is in their lines. It's why they're struggling to run the balls, because they don't have their offensive line is going to get terrorized by anyone. Lucky for them, though, it's not going to be Colorado State. Colorado State does not have the defense front seven in order to exploit that. Colorado's going to win this game, and they'll win it big. But they're going to, once they start going into Autzen and USC and stuff, I think the shine might come off of this Buffalo. Tony's in the Matrix. No, he's here.
I'm in Matrix. I'm back. I'm having Matrix Adventures. Yeah, no, I agree with you. DeReal MVP asks, do you believe? I'll tell you, I believe they're a whole lot better than they were last year. I believe they are the turnaround team of the year. I don't believe they're the second coming of, the Green Bay Packers. So with that said, they're going to roll over Colorado State. I actually don't think this will be a good game. We watched Wazoo just destroy Colorado State. So I think Colorado is going to do the same thing. But, it's going to be a fun story. It'll be wild. If you're a Buffs fan, it's going to be so much fun. So enjoy it, Buffs fans, because it's going to get real next week when Colorado plays Oregon. So I'm looking forward to that one. All right, moving on. And that's a late night game, but it's going to be on ESPN. Pac-12 After Dark. We'll see what happens. All right. Now, this is an interesting game here, guys. Fresno State, who always believes they can play with anybody and beat anybody, is headed into the Valley of the Sun to face the Fighting Kenny Dillinghams. What is going to go on here? Is it going to be Sparky, or the Dog's going to pull it off?
Tim, I'm going to go real quick, and then you can tell me why I'm wrong. Because mine's not fact-based, and so it should be easy. So Arizona State has not looked great. I think, some people would think they're the worst team. Some people would think Stanford's the worst team in the conference. And I watched that Oklahoma State game, like on the ESPN, like on the Pac-12 in 60 or whatever. And from what I heard about Arizona State versus like what I saw, the game was like closer for a lot longer than I was expecting it to be, given what people were saying. And in the first half, I think, I might be wrong, but I think in the first half of that game, Arizona State had only given up single digits rushing to Oklahoma State. I don't know. I think, again, I don't think that they're world beaters, and I definitely toward the bottom portion of like this stacked conference. But I'm going to go ahead. Fresno State, I don't know how good they are. They had close win against Purdue. They had took them overtime to beat Eastern Washington. I'm going to just roll with the Pac in a game that I don't understand is why it's only 3 points. So I'm going to take the home dog and say the Pac-12 is going undefeated this week.
Well, Fresno State is on 11-game win streak. Arizona State is in big trouble. I like what Willingham. I like what Dillingham's going to be able to. That was a Freudian slip. I like what Dillingham is going to be able to do. I do like what Rashada is for the future. I do think that Arizona's a hotbed for recruiting. I think there's a lot going forward. Looks great for Arizona State. However, it's not going to be this year. Chris and I were talking about the Tedford years and how good a lot of those Cal teams were, especially offensively and stuff. And I just think that I don't have a lot of. See, it's funny because I don't have a logic behind this either. I mean, what they did last year doesn't have a lot to do with what they're going to do this year. But I have the Bulldogs in this one just because I just have zero faith in what's going on at ASU. And I think sometimes when things begin to circle, they really begin to spin out. And one of the biggest thing is for the ASU is, like I said, I talked about Rashada. I really like great young arm talent. I think he's going to be great. I believe in Dillingham's offense. However, they are light up front in the offensive line. It's hard to run an offense if you don't have offensive linemen, and their offensive linemen are dropping like flies. They lost another one, so they've lost 4 starters on offensive line since the beginning of spring camp, if I'm right. So that's not very that doesn't really lend a lot to them being able to beat a Bulldog team, which has shown throughout the years that they can knock teams off. I mean, Purdue, it's not a good Purdue team, but they handled business. They took care of it. I think ASU, there's a reason why they're a home dog. And this time I'm not going with the home dog of the Pac-12. I'm actually going with Fresno State.
Rick and I actually agree with you, Tim. Fresno State, they win. Fresno State beats Pac-12 teams. I mean, they beat them in bowl games. They beat them in the regular season. Fresno State gave Reggie Bush a run for their money. And Fresno State went to Purdue and won. I don't think Arizona State goes to Purdue and wins. So with that in mind, Arizona State, this could go either way. You could say flip a coin, but I'm not betting against Fresno going in there. So go Bulldogs, and we'll see what happens with the Sun Devils. We do have a
I'm
super
just going
chat.
off
Thank
of
you,
weird.
John, for the super.
Go ahead. Sorry. Doesn't matter.
So go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say thank you to John for the super chat. That helps the community a lot. We really appreciate it. John says, everyone said I was stupid when I said it before, but now that Colorado is doing mega TV numbers, he still believes the Big Ten or SEC will bid over them. Well, that could be interesting if they can sustain it. I mean, it's a great school. It's a great market. It's in the middle of the country. But yeah, the big question is, can they sustain it, and how that's going to be? But you're right, John. It's hard to get a better school than Colorado. And I love, guys, that the Buffs fans are re-engaged too. So go Buffs. Sorry, Chris, what were you saying?
Oh, nothing important. Just that I have no logic. I do think Fresno State's probably better and is probably going to win. I'm just doing the Homer Pac-12 move on this one with the weird things happen in the desert, and just the vibes are telling me that we're going undefeated again.
Hey, they worked for me last week. I went against the grain a couple of times.
I think we do. I'm on a delay, or you're on a delay, Tony. I think we're kind of. You got me,
Tim. I also wanted to give you a cushion of a few more games before we got into conference.
I appreciate that, because I'm going to need it. But no, I mean, I went with the home team, the home dog Pac-12 vibe last week, and it paid off. So I mean, and more power to you. I would love for the Pac-12 to win. This is one of the ones I don't care if I win this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, it is the desert. Who knows? There might be another Haboob. We'll see, but it'll be interesting. Late night in the desert. And by the way, an interesting thing, there was a bit of a little weird whining from USC fans, because when USC goes to Arizona State next week, that game is also going to be a late night game. It's a late night game on Big Fox. Just remember, to anybody complaining, there is a rule, because of the desert heat and the desert temperatures, that games at Arizona and at Arizona State in September must be at night. So remember, guys, there's a rule in the conference that all Arizona desert games have to be at night. And if anybody's whining about it, remember that last week the Baylor AD's shoe glue melted from the heat of the field. So we don't do that in the Pac-12. Similarly, by the way, if anybody wants to complain about it, the Big Ten has a rule about not playing night games. So anyway, that's an interesting thing. Trevor Westfall, another super chat. He says, be honest, all I ask, nobody knows who is best team at this point. Well, we'll see, Trevor. We've got our power rankings coming up, and we are going to try to make that prediction. So we'll see in just a few minutes. All right, guys. Arizona, who almost got Mississippi State, is bringing UTEP to town. Is this going to be a good one for Jed Fish?
Way too much offense for UTEP. Arizona wins easily.
Yeah, Arizona outgained Mississippi State by about 130 yards, but Delora did his Jekyll and Hyde thing with some great plays and also throwing 4 interceptions. Yep. But whatever issues Arizona has, UTEP has much worse. So after week 1, I thought Northwestern DeReal, I think, thinks it's Boston College, but after week 1, I thought Northwestern might be the worst Power 5 team in the country, and they were in a game against UTEP last week that was like a -1 either side, depending on what time of the week you got it. And I watched UTEP play that game, and they just got absolutely ran over 38-7. UTEP is not good, and I think they might have just like quit on their coach. I don't even know what's going on, but did not look good. Arizona wins very, very easily and bounces back from that heartbreaking OT loss in SEC country.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I don't think that UTEP is going to be able to put up much of a fight here. So, and that's good for Arizona. Arizona can need it. So, bear down, back the A. I think this is a nice win that Arizona needs. Arizona deserved to have the one last week. I was pretty bummed for them, for the Cats. All right. So that is the Pac-12 in the weird week that we have coming up. So now let's take a minute to dive into power rankings. But before we do, guys, anybody who is watching right now, we would love to have you join us and tell us what you think about the Pac-12 games coming up this week. We'll put the link in the chat real quick here. And again, we're here to talk to you guys. We want to hear what you think. So feel free to call in, and we'll bring you on right after we do the power rankings. So the link is in the chat, or you can just take a picture of the QR code with your phone. All right, guys, power ranking time here. Let's take a look. What, Chris?
I was going to say I would like to let anyone in chat know that doesn't agree with my rankings. I want you to know that I don't agree with my rankings.
it's such a these power rankings this earlier is such a mess. I mean, we're doing the best we can, but there's just not enough. We don't know enough about these teams. There's a little hot debate going on in the chat. I will tell you, I think I do know who the number one team is, and come at me, bro, if you want to. That's fine. I don't really care, but it's pretty clear who the number one is to me. I think it's a tight grouping right behind that, and then once it gets past the first five, that middle section. I know the worst two teams, but everything after number 4. That middle section is still a mess. So
it is. Well, let's start with the worst two. So the worst two teams by unanimous consent are Stanford and ASU. I don't think any much debate on this one. Is there, guys?
No.
They're the worst. And then 9 and 10, we also had some consensus coming off last week. 2 hard losses, but Cal and Arizona making up 9 and 10. They both have some potential, but I think you guys, they're not moving up probably past that. Do you think so?
Yeah.
No, but they're good enough to beat teams that are ahead of them, and they're both better than I thought they were going to be. Unfortunately for them, the rest of the conference is also better than I thought it would be. So yeah, they're down there, but they can definitely. I mean, they can win some games. I guess it's whether you put them 9 or 10 is whether you trust Cal's defense more or you trust Arizona's offense more.
That is a good analogy or example. All right, now's where it starts to get interesting, guys, and we've got some mix-ups the rest of the way to the top. Wazoo, Chris, you and I think they're 8 despite their great win. Tim had him at 7. Rick was giving Wazoo some love at 6. So we'll have to see if Rick's affection for the Cougs holds out. Number 7. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Washington State did probably maybe have like the most impressive win last week in terms of who they played and what they look like doing it.
And next up, UCLA. Chris, you had UCLA at 7. Rick and Tim have them at 8. I just want it on the record for the Bruin fans who say that I talk smack all the time. I've got you all at 6. Chris, can the Bruins do better?
I don't know who it will be from like the bottom 4 through 8 that I have, but like the end of the season standings are going to look a lot different than I think of the rankings of where I have teams now due to schedule, due to other things. And, but I don't want to get too homer on it. Connor just asked in the chat if he watched our game versus San Diego State, and he wanted to know if we're that good or if they're that bad. I think they're that bad, Connor, but I think that we are quietly in a conference that's getting a lot of attention, quietly kind of just there, and have a chance to be pretty good. I'm not like saying, oh, we're going to go into Utah and win, or like pounding my chest about how great we are. But if we do pull off some games this year that people don't expect us to win, I don't know that I'll be surprised. We're definitely a work in progress still, but we have a chance to be a lot better than 7th in this conference. But that's where I have us right now.
No, I fully see. Remember, folks, this is not where we think that. For a couple of reasons. One, UCLA's schedule is soft, just like USC's was last year. So they're missing Oregon, they're missing Washington, right? And Dante Moore's a young quarterback, and as he gets more snaps under his belt, and he's got a very, very athletic receiving core to throw to. The defense is showing up, showing out. So they're going to get better. So me having them at 8 right now is just simply it is a function of the fact that I think that you got a young quarterback. I really believe quarterbacks are the most important thing in this league. He's going to get better. But right now, he's just not quite there. And the big win for Wazoo is why I popped them ahead of them, if you want the actual logic behind that last bit. But again, this group right here is very tight. When you're looking at the 8 through like 5, it's very tight. And I might as well throw a dartboard until we get some more data. And one thing also about UCLA, I know it's early. They haven't played much of anyone, but their yards per play, opponents' yards per play is the best in the Pac-12 at 3.9. So they got under 4 yards a play. So not the best, but it's the best in the Pac-12. So keep that in mind.
Our front 7 is, I think, quietly a lot better than people realize yet.
And I saw this. Where'd it go? By the way, I just think, why isn't it showing up? He thinks that, here he goes. He thinks Colorado better be number 1. I hate to tell you, but you're going to be disappointed, dude. Thanks for being here, by the way. But I think you're going to be disappointed here.
You're going to be disappointed. We're glad to have you, though. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
All
I'm really
right.
glad to hear.
Next. And to the person asking, why are we talking about a dead conference? More importantly, why are you watching then? Feel free to watch something else. All right. That's the real point. The real question is, why are we here? The real question is, why are you here? If that's your issue. All right. Next up is Colorado, and we got kind of a range here. Chris has them at 6. I think their defense is not looking great yet. I don't believe in the defense until I see it. So I got him at 7. Travis Hunter's great, but he's only on one side of the field. Rick has him at 3. Tim has him at 4. Guys, what are we thinking about the Buffs?
I just don't want to be called a Buff hater again. I lost sleep over it last week when everyone told me I was being. No, I don't really give. I don't care. No, the reason why I have them here is because they're on a run. It's probably the highest they're going to be in my ranking, right, all year. So, like Lisa said, I had them at the top 4 at one point. This is just a snapshot. They look good. They look really good as far as their offense is concerned. Their defense looks terrible, but I really love what Sean Lewis is doing. Shedeur Sanders is for real. Travis Hunter is an athlete. But you can't.
They're awesome.
They just aren't going to have the horses to get this done this year. So well done, awesome. I think probably starting next week it might be reality might sit up in Boulder.
All
Chris?
right. Next.
No, I was going to say that.
Ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, they're tremendously better than I thought they were. They're like a good team. They're a super well coached team. I would have trouble putting them above the next 5 that I have, because I think the next 5 above them are just really, really good teams.
Wait, hey Chris, what about this?
Yeah.
Is this true?
I'm not smart enough to know what that means.
All right, sorry.
All right. Next up, a team that I think there's a lot of questions on, and a lot of people talk about, is it Utah with Cam Rising or without Cam Rising? And Chris, you and I've got him at 5. Rick believes in the Utes at 4, and Tim's with us at 5. Guys, when is Cam Rising coming back?
That's really where they're at. This is power rating of today. You put Cam Rising in there, they're instantly into the top 4.
Can I also power rate 2 separate Utahs? Can I do a like home Utah power ranking? We have like 13 teams. We have home Utah and we have away Utah.
They kind of need 4. Like Utah needs a matrix. Utah needs a matrix. Like, are they home or away? Is Rising playing or not? We gotta put Utah in a 2x2. I like that. John, thank you for your super chat. He says the conference may be dead, but the teams are alive. That is true. That's why it's the best conference in the sport right now. Much to the SEC's dismay as they go bombing games. All right. Next one, the Beavs. Rick does not have love for the Beavs. Chris, you and I had the Beavs at 3. Rick's got him at 7. Tim, you're nice here in the middle at 6. Any thoughts on the Beavs?
I just need more data. I'm believing more and more in the defense. Connor, if you're out there. I was down on their defense. I'm a big believer in Jonathan Smith and his offense. DJ is absolutely everything that we expected him to be as a quarterback, especially as a Bosco alum. Really love to see DJ doing awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Damian Martinez is going to do. That offensive line's not disappointing, and the secondary is better than I thought. So yes, at this point, they're there. I have them firmly within striking distance. I'm telling you that Colorado is going to drop, and then the Beavs are sitting there just hovering. But they show me some more on defense when they play some quality teams, and I'll be more than happy to move them up.
I know it's against last year competition.
Right.
I just
Next
think
up,
that they've looked more complete than the teams below them thus far.
I agree with you. Next up, guys, the Ducks. So, Chris, you and I have them at 4. Rick has them down at 5. Tim believes in 3. Tim, you are the Duck fan amongst us.
Can you believe that stuff? Sorry. Yeah, can you believe it? Me putting the Ducks in the top 3. Again, I just have them. It's not as much. It's not as much what the Oregon's doing, because I'm with you, Chris. I'm kind of harping on them with how they did against Red Raiders, but what I saw in Lubbock was it's just kind of alarming, and I'm just kind of sitting in the back of my head the whole idea about what is the effect going to be on Nix? Is he going to be that guy that they had last year? How much is the offense going to be hurt? And the defense just as absolute just poo, dude. It's bad. Their defense, I don't care what people are saying. Their defense is bad. It's going to be bad. I don't see it getting better. They're at 3 now because of people below them. Oregon State and Utah could be coming for them any week. I see Colorado dropping. I see Utah and the Beavs moving up, and Oregon's just have to fight them off. I do think they have a lot of talent, right? They probably are amongst, if not the most, if you look at the star rankings and all that stuff, the most talented in the conference. However, they're not playing like it. And it's a long season. It's going to be great in a week to see Colorado and Oregon play each other, because I think we'll know a lot more about, obviously we'll know a lot more about those two teams once we see them play each other.
All right. Next up, bow down to Washington and fight on for Old SC. So we got 3 USC as number 1, and 1 UW as number 1. Chris, you are still on the Dogs here as they head into East Lansing.
Yeah, you guys went off of haven't played anyone timeout to still haven't played anyone timeout, but it's a conference win. So no, I mean, obviously the defense is better than last year. It's just a matter of how much better it is. Like dominated Stanford, but I think a lot of people will this year. I just have Washington currently higher in like this iteration of the power rankings because of how absolutely efficient they've been in both their game last week and against Boise. Like math-wise, they've just been very, very impressive. But they still have questions. We talked earlier about what their secondary looks against a little bit more of a test than they've had this year so far in Michigan State, but not a huge test, not the same kind of test they'll have against SC or Oregon or like half the teams in this league. But yeah, for now I have them higher. Although I think a lot of things in my list will be changing very quickly.
Yeah, USC. USC is number one in both points per play in the Pac-12, also opponents' points per play, number one in both. They're not too far off. It's just slight edge goes to Washington in yards, opponents' yards per play on defense. That's negligible. I think Penix is putting up great numbers, but if you really look at the actual overall numbers, Caleb's like destroying them. For instance, his adjusted passing yards per attempt is 16 yards compared to Penix at 12.5. I think Penix is a great quarterback. I think he's going to do well. I think he's going to be an NFL quarterback, but he's just the difference between these two teams to me really is one. I do think USC's defensive line is better. And matter of fact, they probably have the best defensive line in the Pac-12, in my opinion. I'm sure Utah and some other people will debate me, but what USC is doing right now, I think that they could beat anybody in the Pac-12. Yes, I'm a USC fan, but I don't think that's too homer to say that. Fair.
All right, guys. Well, that was fun. Let's get into some calls. We got some callers waiting. So first up to bat, who's been having some tech issues. Looks like we got Sean Garner joining us. Sean, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, Sean.
Good. How are you?
Hey, congrats on the heck of a season your league's been having, and it's a swan song this year. This is it's been quite impressive.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the league can't do much about the fact that Fox and ESPN wants to ruin college football. So yeah, there they go.
Imagine.
You can't be upset that the league. I mean, you have no control over the league's management, the organization that they planned kind of poorly and didn't get a deal together. But it has nothing to do with what's happening on the field. What the teams are putting forward are pretty fantastic right now. So going into this week, the Dogs coming on to the banks of the Red Cedar here.
What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, okay, so I follow a lot of gambling things, and one thing I've been taught is you can't go broke if you only bet double-digit home dogs to cover at least. And this feels like a good competitive, tough spot for UW. I mean, I don't think MSU has the horses to win, but I don't know. This program historically, you just never know what to expect. They surprise you all the time, and they have been. I mean, I thought they might be like a real laughing stock this year coming into the season. I mean, there were so many unknowns, so much roster turnover, and against inferior competition, they've acquitted themselves very well in the first couple weeks. So I don't know. Noah Kim looks like he's at least a legitimate big-time college quarterback.
Yeah, no, he's by far the best. This is the best test that Washington's secondary, which is their weakness, will have had so far this year. The only issue with Kim, which I'm sure you know, is that his passing goes much as it does with everyone, but his is especially dramatic. When he's pressured, it's not good.
No. And there's a lot of moving parts on that offensive line right now for State. So that could be an issue up against this Washington front. But I think it'll take a while for Washington to put them away, is what I'm feeling in this game. I would kind of be surprised if UW covered in this one, the big number. What's that, like 17 right now?
It was 16 last I checked, and it moved from 12. I don't know if it moved from 12 independent of or because of the coaching situation at Michigan State. Because sometimes that kind of thing doesn't move a line, and sometimes it does. So I don't know what's really going on team morale wise or what the deal is. Sometimes there's people that think there's like a coaching get fired bump, and there's other people that would say, oh, it's ruined because the organization of not having your coach there, the disorganization that comes from that might be an issue. So we'll see. But I think that aside, I still think Washington just has more talent and has looked very, very good again against against an okay Boise team and a bad Tulsa team. Has looked very, very good in both of those games, even for what those opponents were.
Yeah, it looks like statistically that Sparty has who they played, what, Central Michigan. They haven't played much, but what the situation is, they're only giving up 3.1 yards per play. However, they haven't played an offense like Washington, who's leading the country, who actually tied with USC leading the country at 9.1 yards per play. And just for those guys out there, there
I'm
are
back, guys, by the way. Sorry about that.
There are four Pac-12 teams in the top 10 when it comes to yards per play. So like I was talking about defenses, once we get into conference play, you're going to see everyone's numbers drop because they're going to be going against prolific offenses. And I wonder if Sparty can handle what's just about to come with McMillan and Polk on Dunze. I don't know if they have the guys to cover that kind of a lineup.
In state the past couple years, their secondary has been a major issue. They've been bottom 20 in the country in pass defense. The past couple years. That's not what you want to hear with Penix and coming into town. That's all I'm gonna say. No. For better or worse, they do have a lot of experience in that secondary. A lot of those guys have been there for a while. So maybe they're better, or maybe it's just they have a lot of experience playing bad football in there. So and I don't know if you guys have gone over this yet or not, but the new look Big Ten next year is looking pretty strong right now. I have like 6 of the top 12 teams in the country right now.
Yeah.
So that's something to look forward to, I guess. I don't know if any. So awesome. What else? So as far as Colorado goes right now, their defense looked bad and still gave up 7 points this week. I don't know exactly what to make of it. They looked so vulnerable and so weak in moments in that game.
Yeah, I think it's the reason they didn't give up more points, I think, is because Nebraska's quarterback wanted to do everything he could to give them the ball. But yeah, no, they're like one of the, they're like I think I mentioned it earlier. They're like 129th in yards per rush, like against them as a defense. There are definitely some issues on both sides of their lines, and I don't think anyone here thinks it happens this week. But I think eventually that has to catch up to them.
Now, I heard all year, all offseason, that they had like something like a Division III talent on the line of scrimmage on both sides, and that was the reason they were going to go 2-10 this year. I've seen that on the defensive line. On the offensive line, I don't know. I mean, it seems like they're calling plays like they actually trust protection. They're taking downfield shots, and the protection's held up reasonably well in those spots. And it seems like The O line is definitely overperforming. The D line maybe as advertised, but
they've done a really good job in the passing game. And I think that help me out, Tim, the guy's name, the old Kent State coach.
Sean Lewis.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Yeah, no, Sean Lewis has done like an absolutely amazing job with like scheme, in my opinion, given what they have. Because their running back has a ton of production, but it's all on swing passes. Because they can't run the ball. But yeah, no, you're right to say that the O-line has held up decently, I guess, throwing the ball. But I think it's I would credit more than the O-line. I would credit the offensive coordinator, and I would credit Shedeur Sanders for being really good with the ball and getting the ball quick out a lot of times. I know they've had like a few of those deep shots, but a lot of the times he's getting the ball out real quick and looks really good. I mean, I knew I didn't know how good he was, but I think he looks pretty good. I don't know if I'm ready to put him on the Penix Caleb Williams level. I think some people are, but I get where they're coming from in a sense that he is a pretty darn good quarterback. So I think that helps out with the O-line a little bit and makes them look a little bit better than they might otherwise be if they were trying to do something else like a Wisconsin.
Are you surprised they're not using Shedeur more in the running game, calling any at all design runs for him, getting him, rolling him at all?
No, because if he gets hurt, there goes any wins.
Yeah.
And going back to what you said a moment ago, you said he looked a bit. He had time to throw, and like you said, Chris, with Lewis scheming him and just rolling him out, doing subtle, small things that they're doing. He is getting the ball out early, and they haven't really played anyone with a serious pass rush defense or an elite pass rusher that they're going to see in the Pac-12. Almost every team in the top 5 of the Pac-12 has a really elite pass rusher that's going to be able to come at these quarterbacks. And the difference is guys like Caleb and Penix, they've shown that they can handle those tight windows, can get the ball out, or can, like in Caleb's case, just find a way to get the ball off. Where we haven't, I'm not saying he can't do it, but we haven't seen Shedeur Sanders under that kind of duress yet. Maybe he proves he can do it. We won't know. From what I've seen from him, I can't. I'm not going to bet against him, but I'm saying I'm going to need to see that before I start again putting him in that category where guys like Bo Nix and Penix and Williams have shown it.
Yeah, and I mean he will be doing it behind probably a worse offensive line than either of those guys have. I mean, I praise Colorado's O-line for overperforming so far, but I mean the critics can't be that wrong, can they? I mean, this can't be a good offensive line by any stretch.
No, I think that's right, because if it was a good offensive line, they'd be able to run the ball, and they can't run the ball at all. At all.
And they can't stop the run at all. And that's not how you win football.
No, their front seven looks paper thin. Like they look very vulnerable.
Okay, guys. So Tony, Tony gets scared of Colorado, USC, gets worse from there. All in a row.
We'll see.
Trevor, we are truly terrified. Truly.
Yeah, I'm not afraid. I am not afraid. Sean, thank you as always. Anything else real quick?
Oh, no. Just once again, congrats. You guys look like in contention for the best league in college football this season. Can't believe I'm saying that now. Last time. You couldn't have said that about the Pac-10, 12 anytime during my 28 years of watching college football. So I mean, you guys are right there this year, and I look forward to seeing how this shakes out.
We'll just watch them all shoot themselves and end up all with 4 losses or something.
No.
It'll be a Pac-12 way to solve it.
What would be hilarious is if you're just so good that you guys all end up with 2 losses, and the and
And no one goes to playoff.
it just ends up being Michigan. It just ends up being Ohio. I can't say Michigan. It ends up being Ohio State, Texas, Florida State, and the SEC champion in the playoff.
Exactly. It'll
Yeah.
be wild. Hey,
But,
thanks as always.
Take care.
I think there's
See
been
ya.
only one time, guys, where where there's been 8 teams from a conference ranked in the same week, right? I think that's only happened one other time, and is with the SEC. But there's definitely never been a league where 2/3 of the conference is ranked.
That's
Like,
amazing.
Yeah, it's never happened. It's crazy.
But you guys
All
also
right, we got friend of the
you
show,
guys-
Will Andy, joining us.
And before we get to Will, if you
Right
guys could really quickly hit that like button, you guys, and subscribe to the channel, Mark would really appreciate it. Hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live.
Makes
What's up,
a
Will?
huge difference.
Hey,
Thank you,
guys. Got me and my dad. We got our shillelagh tickets. We just got them all. So got the flight.
Nice.
Got the hotel. So yeah, gonna be
You
awesome.
going to the game?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Let's go.
All right, well, tell us about it because we talked about it for about 5 seconds. What's
Oh,
gonna
the-
happen? What's the story on Central Michigan?
Oh, the Chippewas. Oh, I was talking about the USC game, but
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
My
we're
bad.
going to the
I'm
USC
sorry.
game.
He would, listen, Will, he wouldn't understand the shillelagh. He's still missing the victory bell. He doesn't understand some of these trophies.
I got to get ready for the Big Ten where they literally have like
A trophy
8 of
for
them
everything.
for every game. Yeah.
Well, the Central Michigan game, I don't know if we're going to go all out and cover the spread because we've covered the spread in our first 3 games. But, of course, the big one against the team from Ohio is looming. So I'm not sure if we're going to go all out. But we might see a lot of Steve Angeli and Kenny Minchie play. Maybe not so much Sam Hartman. But, you know.
You're not going to want to give the Buckeyes a lot of film. I'm sure it will be pretty bad vanilla with some backup players. That's the right call. Get a nice little lead, pull Hartman out.
Mhm.
Really, just hand the ball off to Estime. Let him run for about 180 yards in the first half. Score 3 touchdowns.
Devin Ford's back, which is great. Jabron Payne, JD Price, all those running backs. So, yeah. But I'm kind of interested in the Arizona State-Fresno State game. I want to see if the Pac-12 can get that Fresno monkey off their back. I like some of what I saw from Jaden Rashada, but he still looks pretty raw. Because I was watching a rerun of that. For my internship, the TV was on, and they're showing the rerun of that game. So, yeah, I mean, Fresno looks pretty good against Purdue, but, I mean, this is Pac-12 after dark, so anything can happen. Do you guys think that the Sun Devils can pull it off? Do you think there's a strong possibility, or do you think it's going to be all Fresno?
I think that Fresno has probably been the better team so far, and I think that Tedford's an experienced coach, and I think that Dillingham has a lot of promise, but Tedford's already been there, done that, right? I picked Arizona State, Will, in our like little previews, but it's mostly a Pac-12 going undefeated another time for another week kind of move. There's not. Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in that pick. I think it's the only game that the Pac-12 should lose this week. But who knows? Maybe Dillingham has a little bit of a bounce back and coming out party. I thought they looked better. And you saying you watched that Oklahoma State game?
Mm-hmm. I feel like he went for it on 4th down too much. I feel like they just lost the momentum because of that.
If he's using the same company he used at Oregon, I think that he's probably doing that by the numbers.
Okay.
But what I was going to ask you about was like that first half, Arizona. I don't know if you realized when you were watching it, Arizona State. The only reason I have hope for them is that I understand Oklahoma State is not good. Fresno State might be better than them, to be completely honest. But they held they held Oklahoma State to single yards rushing in the first half, and like
the defense looked good, and then they just got tired. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and the way people were talking about that game versus what I thought I saw and how close it was until about like 5 or 8 minutes is when it kind of got away from them. I think they had a drive with like 6 minutes left, where if they score on that, they take the lead. So it's not like they got like ran out of town. Again, I understand Oklahoma State's not expected to be good. I think they're supposed to be like a projected 4 to 5 win team or something in the Big 12.
They were playing like a bunch of quarterbacks.
I think we might be dumping on Arizona State a little bit more than we should. I don't think that they're good, to be clear, but I don't know. I think they might have a shot. We'll see.
It's a toss-up, Will. I mean, I could have gone. This is the rest of it was chalk to me. I mean, it's like I was just glancing at the scores, looking at the teams, and going, "Okay, win." This one, for all the reasons both Tony and Chris said, just it's Jeff Tedford. The guy's a good coach. He is a good coach. He has shown the ability to knock off teams, and to be a home dog and them rolling in on an 11-game win streak, got a lot of juice with them. And if this game was later in the year and you have Rashad with a little more experience, then maybe I give the Sun Devils the nod. But I'm just it's a gut feeling. I mean, this one clearly can go either way. I'm not counting them out. Sun Devils could pull this off. I mean, it's a small. What is it? 3-point spread, 4-point spread. So I mean,
yeah, it's a field goal.
4-point home dog. That's nothing. That could absolutely a 3-point. Sorry, home dog. That's nothing. So this game could go either way.
And it's in the desert at night, so there are no rules. There are no rules when you go to the desert at night.
Will we see Drew Pine?
Probably not. It's be too close. The game's
I
gonna be close.
don't think so.
I heard he got hurt too. I heard there's like a chance he was going to play, but then he got hurt, which was kind of sad for him. But
I have no idea. I'm still surprised he went there.
I mean, hey, maybe he just wants some nice-looking women.
Hey, it's hard to beat that he went to the right place.
Another game I'm kind of interested in is the Stanford-Sacramento State game, only because Troy Taylor was at Sacramento State. So maybe they'll know some of like what he's trying to do with the Stanford, and maybe it'll be a closer game.
Can I pop back there? I just wanted to respond to that Pine comment about age.
Yeah.
I think Kenny Dillingham's a legit offensive coordinator and a quarterback guy and coach. And I think that was the draw for Pine to go there. And I don't know if he was just banking on the fact that Rashada might come along a little slower. I mean, I don't know.
Well, maybe was it pre-Florida breakup with Rashada? I think that's.
Yeah, I know that's a good question too. When did he decide to come?
I believe it was like right after like the U.S.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah. And
I mean, the draw I think was Dillingham.
Yeah, for sure.
So the Stanford game, that's another one's a mess. But I mean, I think Stanford's going to get it done because they have better athletes on both sides of the ball, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I do like their quarterback though. I like San Jose's quarterback. Dang it, I already forgot his name, but he's good. Oh, sorry. Oh, Sac State. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm screwed up. I'm thinking San Jose State. Never mind. Moving on.
I do like San Jose State's quarterback though. Cordero.
Yeah. What's his name, Chris?
Cordero, I think is how.
Cordero. Yes, that's right. Cordero. He's good. Sorry, my bad. Wrong team. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Those Northern California state schools, they all blended together to me, really.
They blend together. Cal Maritime, Cal Poly, whatever. They're all the same. No, I'm just kidding to all my friends who went to all of them. Too funny.
Although I believe Slap had an I in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's an I before the E because I was watching a bit of the.
Except after C, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right on, Will. Anything else, bud?
Yeah, I mean, week 3 is not that much exciting games, unfortunately, but definitely looking forward to week 4. But I will watch, of course, a lot of the week 3 games and definitely check in on these games that we were talking about. So yeah.
Yeah, week 4 could be. Week 4 is gonna be great, though. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Notre Dame Ohio State game. I think you guys are really gonna give them a run. I think. Yeah. I'm not calling anything yet, but I think you guys are really gonna give you guys are really gonna give them a hell of a game.
Love you too, Robbie. Robbie, are you going to the Shillelagh game? I would love to see you there if you're going.
Robbie, I think Will's getting us tickets, so let's go. Right, Will?
I wish.
Will's got the tickets. We'll meet him at the stadium.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
That'll be a fun game.
Hopefully the Pack can have another undefeated week.
Well, let's see what ASU can do.
Keep our fingers crossed. Good luck to your Irish.
Yeah. I don't know. Sacramento State is the 6th ranked FCS team. Thanks, Will.
See you, Will.
Right on, Will.
You think the Sac State one might be close too?
No, I don't think it will be, but they are like in the FCS top 25. They're 6th.
Stanford is not in any ranking.
Which means really what? But yeah.
I don't know, but where's Stanford? Like if you No, I don't think the ex-coach angle is like interesting, right? But other than that, once you move past that, Stanford has better dudes and should win the game. I know Stanford they got throttled last week, but
they lost their quarterback. I mean, we got to remember they lost their quarterback early against USC, and USC is going to put up 50 to 60 points on pretty much everyone except for the elite defenses in the country. So it's not really that much of an indictment on Stanford getting
but
whomped by
always
USC.
Not always in 1.5 quarters.
Yeah, true. Well, that's a function. That's also a function of knocking out their quarterback early. I mean, not that he's guy's a freshman, but he's a mobile guy, whatever. And okay, they're not. I didn't say they were good. I'm just saying there's extenuating circumstances for why they really got smoked that bad.
Oh, too funny. All right, well, next up, we got one more caller. We got Jackson Johnson joining us. Jackson, welcome. What do you think of the Pac-12 this week?
I am pretty excited to see what's up with Fresno State, Arizona State, Washington, Michigan State. Oh, that little matchup, Stanford, Sacramento State. Not so much because of the matchup, but because of like the reunion between Troy Taylor and Sacramento State. It's just gonna be like, hey, that's what's gonna be funny about it.
Do you think you're talking about the Washington Michigan State game, since we just talked about ASU and Stanford? So in that Washington Michigan State game, do you see any path that Michigan State has to winning that game, or do you think there's way too much disarray and Washington?
I feel like there's too much disarray at the moment, and right now I got Washington winning 42-24 against Michigan State. I would say that San Diego State could give Oregon State trouble, but here's the thing. They didn't give UCLA any trouble last week, so what makes me think they're going to give Oregon State any trouble? They're not. Oregon State, they're going to just get out the belt on San Diego State.
Yeah, I think the offense is going to have a huge day. Really big day.
No, Oregon State should they'll win by like 35 if they want to.
I mean, I know this won't happen, but I would love to see College Game Day, which once again I say won't happen, but would love for this to happen. But I'd love for Game Day or Big Noon Kickoff to go to Oregon State, Washington State for next Saturday. But again, I know it won't happen.
That would be great. Unfortunately, they're probably going to go to like Ohio State, Notre Dame or something, right? But the week four slate, for as bad as this week is in terms of like matchups, the week 4 slate is absolutely loaded. There's in the Pac-12, there's going to be Washington State, Oregon State, you're saying. I know that UCLA plays Utah. That's
Colorado, Oregon.
That's like 3 top 25 matchups in the conference.
And then you have Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Yep.
That'd be big. Yeah, it's gonna be a great weekend. Not this much. Not as much this weekend.
Yeah, this week it feels kind of sloppy, but next week will be fun, like you guys said. But I am loving what Oregon State is bringing. I'm loving what Cam Ward's bringing at Washington State.
I love what
Yeah.
that defense is bringing at Washington State.
Oh yeah, they were pretty fantastic last Saturday. I'm loving it.
Yeah,
So,
with Washington State, it's been an issue of their offensive line, and they lost a couple offensive linemen. So that situation, we'll see. Again, I think a lot of these Pac-12 quarterbacks, we're gonna see what it looks like when live bullets start flying with like real defenses and real pass rushes. That's when we're gonna know which ones of these offenses. Because there's some offenses that are in flux, and some of them are strong. Like Washington and USC. Washington and USC both lost a couple of really important linemen, but overall they stayed pretty intact as far as their offense. It's the other teams in the league that I think have great offenses. Someone like Oregon State, who I think got a lot better in offense, and then there's some other teams I think that may have stepped back a bit. But we'll see. Who knows? That's what's great about college football. We'll see how they play, and we'll see them on the field. Starting next week. We're going to learn a lot about Colorado and Oregon next week. A lot.
that is for sure. And I will say, a little while ago, y'all were talking about how fantastic the Pac-12's been doing, including in the non-conference play. They are 20-3 this year.
Well, now, do we? If these go chalk, right? That means that they're going to go what? They're going to go 11-1 again.
11-1, yeah.
So I mean, that's going to be even more insane because I don't think any other conference is doing that. I think that's a function of.
I was going to say, just imagine if Arizona State, like, again, who outgained Mississippi State by 130 yards. They did things to lose that game also, but they could have won it. And same thing with Cal. If those two games go the other way last week, the narrative is already like ridiculous and crazy, and there are a lot of good teams in this conference, but it would have been even more ridiculous if those two had happened. Yeah, so
we could have had 9 teams ranked.
Yeah. I mean, 67, 8 of the 12 teams, which is like 67% of the conference, is in the top 25. I mean, that is holy cow. That's a stat that impresses me. But I will say, I mean, I know that Washington, Michigan State's on the Peacock app because it has to be, but I kind of feel like it should be on NBC instead. If you gotta have a Big Ten game on Peacock, let it be like Syracuse, Purdue, but switch Washington, Michigan State up to NBC with all the headlines surrounding it.
So I believe, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the Big Ten contract doesn't it require every team to be on Peacock once?
Yeah. I believe
I could be wrong. I thought it did. So they have to have, Michigan State has to have one game on Peacock.
Right.
And this is the one they picked.
Like, I still get kind of mad for the University of Washington because, I mean, I love what Penance is bringing. And I love what that offense is bringing.
Well, I mean, again, this is a school that often plays on the Pac-12 network. A lot of people would rather play in Peacock than the Pac-12 network. Because at least you can get Peacock some places.
Yeah, at least for $5 I can get Peacock or whatever. Good luck trying to find the Pac-12 network.
Well, with me personally, I don't care what network it's on. I'll watch any game that I gotta watch.
You'll find a way.
I couldn't find ESPN for 2 weeks.
Spectrum, Charter, kerfuffle.
Yeah, no, I got a nice little YouTube TV trial period, but yeah.
Hey, but listen, we're doing a lot of victory laps, and here's one thing that I talked earlier about the best conference. The ACC has some pretty big wins. So they have losses, but they've got the big wins. I mean, what is our biggest win? Is it Utah over Florida? Is it Washington State over Wisconsin? I mean, is it Oregon over Texas Tech? What big win? What signature win do we have?
So Washington State, Wisconsin, I think is the most impressive win for the conference because it's a team that I think it's a team that people think has a chance to be in its conference title game, and it's the Pac-12's projected like 8th best team.
But now, if we
your
were to
eighth
take-
best team has beat 2 years in a
That said,
row. Like
Isn't
good Wisconsin
Fresno
team.
State in first place in the Big Ten West?
Fresno State in the Big Ten West. Good grief.
he's
Doesn't
talking
Fresno
about Purdue's
State
loss.
win against Purdue?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
make them the
you-
best team in the Big Ten
Oh,
West?
But that's
play.
I get you, Chris, but that's because you're saying that it's the East West. Clearly you're not the top
sometimes
3
take
teams in the
that-
Big Ten.
I sometimes take things a little too seriously. Sorry about that. I was like,
No, Tim, that's not what. But I'm saying it's not even. It's the fact that it's our 8th best team doing that, right?
Like the optics of it. Right. 8th
Like
best team
it's-
against like maybe the 4th or 5th best team.
like
or
if
6th.
if SC or Oregon or one of the teams that's like expected to be good beats Wisconsin, then yeah, it's like a good win, but it's not the same as like the team that's supposed to be your 8th best team.
Got
beating
you. Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I get you. I got you.
but yeah, we got ourselves well, even though this week's doesn't have a lot of great choices, it's still going to be a fun week for everybody, including in the Pac-12 as well.
Yeah,
we gotta.
it should be.
I got to get our wins in now before we get to conference because that super easy schedule that I thought we had at the beginning of the year, I think still has like 5 ranked teams on it now.
Right.
Well, and something about Fresno State, I believe they have the second longest active winning streak in college football.
Yep.
They're second only to Georgia.
Yeah, they got 11 win. They're on 11 win streak. Yeah.
Yep. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. But
It
going
is.
back to the title win, so then really, if USC beat Notre Dame, that would clearly be the best non-con win of the season.
Oh, that's obvious right there.
Sorry, Will.
Like,
taking you
imagine
down.
if we saw. I wonder if we would ever see like a USC Notre Dame playoff rematch or like a New Year's Six rematch. That would be pretty cool.
I'd love that because the
knows?
word on the street is that Notre
It'd be
Dame
wild.
can't win a postseason game. So I'd actually be happy to see that.
Final
And
thoughts?
plus, that would be like the first time it ever happened in series history because they've never had a rematch in a bowl game or in a big bowl game.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
final-
USC's never played Notre Dame twice in the same season ever.
No, but that would be pretty cool.
I would hope not. All right. Any final thoughts here, Jackson? We get ready to wrap up.
I'm just ready for another week of college football, and I'm just ready to see what happens. Does the streak continue for Fresno, or does it end on Saturday night? I will say I'll definitely stay up for that one. I mean, I
That's
know
gonna be a fun one.
everyone's
In the
there
desert.
at Colorado, but I'm not probably going to watch Colorado.
That probably won't be the
State.
game.
Yeah, I'm not staying up for Colorado State. Nothing personal against them. But yeah, we got ourselves another
Really-
great week. And guys, thank you for having me on the Pac-12 Chat Show, and I'll see you guys later.
Thank you, Jackson.
Thanks for calling in. Glad
Yeah.
glad to have you as always.
Glad
Right
to
on.
come on here as always.
So Hummus has this question.
All
Hummus
right.
has this question really quickly, Tony. Hummus has this question. Does the Pac only have one truly bad team? What do you guys
Go
think?
for it.
It has 2.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think
I
he
think-
actually even corrected himself in chat
Yeah.
after that and said
Oh, did he?
2. Yeah. But no, I think that's right. I think there's two bad
There
teams.
he's got it.
One of which has reason to think it might look better toward the end of the year, but we'll see. But yeah, 2 bad teams and two teams that I think, like, if they're in this conference any other year besides this year, or like in the middle of the conference, in Cal and Arizona. Like, this Arizona is probably better than last year's Arizona. Maybe not by a lot, but they are better. But like everyone else in the conference got a lot better.
Yeah, we had a nice little 2-hour spectacular.
There's the list.
Yeah, I don't see those bottom two
Exactly.
switching up very much. You'd have to see significant injuries on those top next two teams to see them drop into Stanford, Arizona State level.
Well, I give California and Arizona like a puncher's chance against the 8 teams above them. And I don't see myself ever thinking that Arizona State or Stanford are competitive. Maybe Arizona State changes towards the end of the year, but at least right now, I think that's the difference between the bottom two and the next two above them. Is the next two above them, I think, can give a lot of teams above them a game, or more than they would expect, especially for teams in the bottom third of your conference.
Yeah, I agree.
Agree. All right. Any other final thoughts?
No, not really. It's gonna be I think it's gonna be a snoozer of a week. Do we have any totals on the wins for our? We've been picking for 3 weeks now. Do we have
we
totals yet?
We'll add them up for next week.
Okay.
We got to add our bloated 11-1 or 12-0 week.
All of our records are gonna look really good because we've been homering the Pac-12. So we're the as the Pac-12 does, so will we. You know.
As the Pac-12 goes, so do we. I like that, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, on that note, I want to thank you guys for joining us. As always, we're glad to have you. Thank you for spending some time with us here in the Voice College Football community. One last thing before you guys go, we really appreciate it if you just take a sec, whether you're on your phone or on your computer, on your YouTube TV, whatever. If you can just hit the like button, it really makes a huge difference for Mark and the whole Voice of College Football community. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Have a great night. And as always, fight on.